Thank you very much for joining our online reading session of the book The Mood and Mission of Srila Prabhupada. So before starting, we will offer our humble prayers. Om Jnana Vedanta Jnanam Jana Shalakya Chakshuram Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Chav Nirvishesha Shunyadi Vashati Deshata जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसि गौर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम हरे राम संपर्क वाचरम गुरुनाथे पादम दीक्षित अकीशा यस्य पदने लक्ष्मी यस्य तपस्या यस्यास्ते तवे संगतं यस्य देवे पराभक्ति यथा देवे तथा गुरु तस्येति तदिताय अत्र प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः योऽन्तः प्रविश्य ममाच मां सुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्य किल शक्तिधरस्वधाम्नां चतुश्चरणश्रवणत्वभागं प्राणां गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय काले कृष्णाय जगद्गुरुवाय कृष्णचित्ताय भजन सुखातो भजन संस्पृश्य. Okay, Shamsaru Prabhu, you can start reading.
Okay, Prabhu. Goshtyanandi preachers. There are two classes of devotees. One is called Goshtyanandi and the other is called Bhajananandi. A devotee who does not preach but always engages in devotional activities is called a Bhajananandi, whereas a devotee who not only is expert in devotional service but who also preaches the cult of bhakti and defeats all kinds of agnostics is called a Goshtyanandi. In Krishna consciousness, as Srila Prabhupada taught it, it is not enough to be a simple sadhu or scholar. A devotee should endeavor to do something substantial to help push on the preaching mission, not wanting that his disciples be satisfied simply with their own devotional practices. Srila Prabhupada warned his disciples to not imitate those Babajis who themselves imitate Paramahamsa Bhajananandi Vaishnavas. We don't want Babaji class, we want active preachers. He aimed to create Goshtyanandis who can benefit others rather than Bhajananandis who focus on benefiting themselves. A Bhajananandi is not interested in preaching work, but a Goshtyanandi is interested in spreading Krishna consciousness to benefit the people and increase the number of Vaishnavas. Bhajananandi means they are interested in their own welfare, and Goshtyanandi wants to see that more devotees are there. He explained why Goshtyanandis are more important than Bhajananandis. Bhajananandi is not as important as Goshtyanandi. Bhajananandi is doing for himself, and Goshtyanandi is doing for all living beings. If you prepare some rasagullas for yourself, and if you prepare rasagullas for the mass of people, then who is better? Rasagulla is good. If you prepare only for yourself, then that is also good. But one who is preparing for so many hundreds and thousands is better. Seeing Goshtyanandis as better sadhus because they are more compassionate, Srila Prabhupada stated, our mission is if we can create some sadhus and they distribute themselves all over the world and exhorted his disciples to preach. One should have the determination to go out and preach Krishna consciousness. One who has actually seen the truth cannot just sit idly. He must come out. We have to become Karunikaha, taking compassion on the fallen souls. We have to go from country to country town to town, city to city, village to village, to enlighten them to become Krishna conscious. That is a sadhu's duty. Preachers are better sadhus than those who have gone to the Himalayas. The sadhus who have gone to the Himalayas for personal benefit, that is also good. But those sadhus who are preaching and facing so many difficulties, so many opposing elements, they are better sadhus. They are fighting for Krishna's sake, Karunikaha, because they are more compassionate. One sadhu has gone to the Himalayas, sitting there in a secluded place, not to be bothered by any sadhu. That is also nice, but that is personal interest. But those sadhus who have not gone to the Himalayas but have left Vrindavana easy life and gone to the world to fight are better sadhus. That is the opinion of Krishna. Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshva mad bhakteshvabidasyati. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 68. Those who are preaching the message of Bhagavad Gita, facing many opposing elements, many difficulties, Krishna says, Na cha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priya krittamaha. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 69. Nobody is dearer than him. Active preachers means on the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. As Srila Prabhupada said, I am training my students as Madhyama Adhikaris. One cannot preach without being a Madhyama Adhikari. Kanishta remains in the temple. He explained this principle in more detail. Everyone is eligible to become Krishna's devotee. One simply has to be trained according to the approved process. It is the work of Krishna's confidential devotees to turn everyone into a Krishna Bhakta. If the confidential devotees do not take up the task of elevating everyone to Krishna consciousness, then who will do it? Those who claim to be devotees but do not engage in Krishna's service to elevate all living creatures to Krishna consciousness are to be considered Kanishta Adhikaris, people in the lowest stage of devotional service. When one rises to the second platform of devotional service, his business is to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the all over the world. Those who are active in the Krishna consciousness movement should not remain in the neophyte stage but should rise to the platform of preachers, the second platform of devotional service. Devotional service is so enchanting that even the first class devotees, Uttama Adhikaris, also come down to the second platform to preach and render service to the Lord for the benefit of the whole world. Such disapproval of transcendentalists who are indifferent to the welfare of others follows the mood of Prahlad Maharaja as expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 44, Prayena Deva Munayaha. Srila Prabhupada often quoted this verse and in his purport to it stated, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are not at all interested in so called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest, where one will only make a show of meditation, nor are they interested in opening many schools for yoga and meditation in the cities. Rather, every member of the Krishna consciousness movement is interested in going door to door to try to convince people about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That is the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement.
Now we have schools of yoga. ISKCON is
Hmm.
having now schools of yoga. Of course, we are also doing door to door, but we have now schools of yoga, meditation, school of yoga. They give certificates for getting trained as a yoga trainer, yoga teacher. So they're doing all sorts of things, and nobody opposing. Nobody asked the question to them. Prabhupada said that we don't want to make any this one. They have, I have seen, they have a different type of instruments which are played to invoke earth, water, fire, air, ether. There are instruments, granite, stone,
Mhm.
copper. They are doing that. Arey Baba, I was
Oh.
thinking, from where you got this, all this nonsense?
Mhm.
So I don't know from where the devotees are doing it. Initiated devotee, they sit and they say that this instrument will invoke the earth matter within our body, and he plays that instrument. And in their official Instagram, they post this. I was thinking,
Oh.
what kind of brain are you having? Uh, and it has nothing to do with that. What, some kind of grenade, some instrument, and they are playing it tongue, and it is making sound, and it is vibrating the space akash element of our body. What is it? What does it have to do? Are you? Nobody is asking. Nobody is asking, and nobody has the dare to. Actually, if I would be there, I would be daring to ask. Nobody is asking. I asked daringly to the brahmachari who told that Prabhupada books wanted footnotes. I daringly asked him, what kind of nonsense is this? How are you saying this? On the Vyasasana is sitting, and I asked him. It may be not an etiquette to do like that directly, but something we have to at least, maybe humbly present, humbly protest. Otherwise, these things will go on forever, ever, and nobody will ask. And we think that these devotees are very Mahabhagavat Acharyas and Avatar Purusha. They have come just to deliver us within this material world and show Prabhupada and Krishna. Arey, you are not. If you are Avatar Purusha, if you are so humble, then you will follow Prabhupada as it is. That is what his humbleness is. First humbleness is not to join hands and then fold your hands every second, 10 minutes, and then smile at people. That is not we want. We don't want he laughing, and then people tell, okay, whatever you want, you can do. We don't want such nonsense giggling. It's not giggling humbleness. We don't want that. As simple as that. And I am very clear about that, and I don't have any shame in telling in front of everybody that this is such. Because we have been, our upbringing is hearing Prabhupada's lectures for years and years, and then read Prabhupada's books, and we can't see anything nonsense going on, and then we can keep our mouth shut. We can keep our mouth shut, not to say anything, but whoever asks us, at least we can tell them. Yes, Prabhu, continue.
Embodying the mood of Prahlada, of natural enthusiasm for preaching to benefit others, Srila Prabhupada specifically wanted his disciples to be Goshtyanandis. The Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principle that one should become as perfect as possible in devotional service oneself and also preach the cult for others' benefit. There are two classes of unalloyed devotees, namely Goshtyanandis and Bhajananandis. Bhajananandi refers to one who is satisfied to cultivate devotional service for himself, and Goshtyanandi is one who is not satisfied simply to become perfect himself but wants to see others also take advantage of the holy name of the Lord and advance in spiritual life. The outstanding example is Prahlada Maharaja. When he was offered a benediction by Lord Nrsimhadeva, Prahlad Maharaja said, Naivodvije Paraduratyaya Vaitaranyas Pad Virya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chittaha Soche Tato Vimukta Chetasa Indriyartha Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvahato Vimudhan. My dear Lord, I have no problems and want no benediction from you, because I am quite satisfied to chant your holy name. This is sufficient for me, because whenever I chant, I immediately merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. I only lament to see others bereft of your love. They are rotting in material activities for transient material pleasure and spoiling their lives, toiling all day and night simply for sense gratification with no attachment for love of Godhead. I am simply lamenting for them and devising various plans to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 43. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura explains in his Anubhashya, a person who has attracted the attention of the spiritual master by his sincere services likes to dance by his sincere service likes to dance and chant with similarly developed Krishna conscious devotees. The spiritual master authorizes such a devotee to deliver fallen souls in all parts of the world. Those who are not advanced prefer to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place. Such activities constitute, in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, a type of cheating process in the sense that they imitate the activities of exalted personalities like Haridasa Thakura. One should not attempt to imitate such exalted devotees. Rather, everyone should endeavor to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all parts of the world and thus become successful in spiritual life. One who is not very expert in preaching may chant in a secluded place, avoiding bad association, but for one who is actually advanced, preaching and meeting people who are not engaged in devotional service are not disadvantages. A devotee gives the non devotees his association, but is not affected by their misbehavior. Thus, by the activities of a pure devotee, even those who are bereft of love of Godhead get a chance to become devotees of the Lord one day. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura advises that one discuss the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam beginning Naitat samachare jatu manasapi hyanish Hyanishwaraha, Canto 10, Chapter 33, Text 30, and the following verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1 to 255. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. One should not imitate the activities of great personalities. One should be detached from material enjoyment and should accept everything in connection with Krishna's service.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Adindriya Prabhu, continue.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
A warning that imitation of highly exalted devotees would lead to downfall. Srila Prabhupada guided his followers to preach. Preaching work is meant for advanced devotees, and when an advanced devotee is further elevated on the devotional scale, he may retire to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place. However, if one simply imitates advanced spiritual life, he will fall down, just like the Sahajiyas in Vrindavan. From the above quotation, it is clear that Srila Prabhupada did not wholly proscribe Bhajananandi life for his followers, and indeed he indicated that preaching would lead to bhajan. Still, he prescribed the required qualification. You preach for some time, then you simply engage yourself. Preaching means to make him strong, to become firmly convinced in Krishna consciousness. That is preaching. When he is firmly convinced, then he can give up preaching and sit down and simply chant. Not in the beginning. That is in imitation. He must be firmly convinced. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur advocated that every devotee, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, preach the bhakti cult, Krishna consciousness all over the world. Only when one is mature can he sit in a solitary place and retire from preaching all over the world.
Yes, Prabhu, continue.
Yes, preaching is Lord Chaitanya's mission. In contrast to Bhajananandi Babajis, who retreat from the world to perform Nirjan Bhajan, solitary worship for personal upliftment. Srila Prabhupada promoted group preaching, Sankirtan, as the real essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. The following order to his disciples captures Srila Prabhupada's mood in this regard. We must stay together and vigorously preach the Krishna consciousness philosophy to the world. That is the real spirit of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Do not fall victim to this sentimental idea of peaceful life in seclusion. That is not our dharma. Elaborating on this theme, Srila Prabhupada often spurred his disciples to preach Krishna consciousness throughout the world and thus satisfy Lord Chaitanya. Spreading Krishna consciousness is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Therefore, his sincere devotees must carry out his desire. The devotees of Lord Chaitanya must preach Krishna consciousness in every village and town in the world. That will satisfy the Lord. It is not that one should act whimsically for his own personal satisfaction. This order comes down through the parampara system, and the spiritual master presents these orders to the disciple so that he can spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is the duty of every disciple to carry out the order of the bona fide spiritual master and spread Lord Chaitanya's message all over the world. A devotee must carry out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Every devotee, therefore, should spread Krishna consciousness by preaching, asking whomever he meets to accept the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says, Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This is the order of the Lord, who speaks as the Supreme Emperor. Everyone should be induced to accept this order, for this is victory, Digvijay. And it is the duty of the soldier, the devotee, to impress upon everyone this philosophy of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted the cult of devotional service to the Lord to be preached all over the world, in every nook and corner, and therefore a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. Every devotee should be very enthusiastic, not only in performing his daily rituals of devotional service, but in trying to peacefully, preach the cult peacefully by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. Now is the time for the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to distribute Krishna Bhakti all over the world and thus follow the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord has ordered everyone to become a guru. हमारा आज्ञा है गुरु है तारे देश. Everyone in every town and village should be enlightened by the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna consciousness should be distributed to everyone indiscriminately. In this way, the entire world will be peaceful and happy, and everyone will glorify Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he desires. Everyone in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotional cult should accept the words of the spiritual master and thus spread the Krishna consciousness movement. They should go everywhere in different parts of the world and preach as ordered by the spiritual master that will satisfy Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In summary, take the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and distribute it throughout the whole world. This is the Krishna consciousness movement. Should I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Preaching improves everything. The multiple undertakings of the Krishna consciousness movement can be understood in light of this comment by Srila Prabhupada. As long as preaching work is going on somehow or other, that is first class program. If you improve the preaching program, everything else will automatically improve. Krishna will give you all facilities. I simply want to engage everyone in the service of Krishna. That's all. And that means preaching. So if the preaching work has stopped, what can I do? In that case, you must expect there will be so many troubles. So try to improve your preaching work, distribute all the books and print more. And in this way, Krishna is the husband of the goddess of fortune. You will get as much money and as many big buildings as you need for spreading Krishna consciousness movement without any doubt. Preaching leads to expansion and all auspiciousness. As you are preaching, more men will come, money will come, everything will be all right. Krishna will supply. Notwithstanding the darkness of this age, preaching will rectify everything. If we preach, it will be all right. That is going on perpetually, darkness and light. If you bring light, darkness will go out, will be driven away. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakar. यहाँ कृष्ण तहा नहीं माया अधिकार. Just like now there is sunshine, although it is not very bright, but still the darkness of night has gone away. So bring in Krishna consciousness, it will go away. Purpose of preaching.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu.
Yes, Guruji. Yes, Guruji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay, Jagannath Chandra Prabhu, you can read.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I'm having dinner, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm just watching.
Okay, okay. Purpose of preaching. Although Srila Prabhupada's movement is open to all, at least at one stage, Srila Prabhupada expressed more interest that many people understand its philosophy rather than in having many committed followers. We are not after making very many initiated members, but our concern is that people understand this philosophy in wider circles. Initiated members are for managing the temples and preaching work, but our program is to invite people to our feasts. Let them hear our philosophy and chant, dance and chant. That is the basic principle of our philosophy in preaching work. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Leela, chapter 3, text 149, describes the twofold purpose of Lord Nityananda's preaching. Prem Pracharan or Pashanda Dalan, Dui Kare Avadut Karena Brahman. For two purposes, to spread the cult of the bhakti and to defeat and subdue the atheists. Lord Nityananda, the most dedicated devotee of the Lord, moved throughout the country. Devotees following in the footsteps of Lord Nityananda pursue the same purpose as Srila Prabhupada underlies in his purport to this verse. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha chatkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Lord Krishna appears in every millennium for two purposes, namely to deliver the devotees and to kill the non-devotees. His devotees also have similar two purposes: to preach the bhakti cult of Krishna consciousness and to defeat all kinds of agnostics and atheistic demons. Nityananda Prabhu carried out the order of the Lord. Nityananda Prabhu carried out the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. And those who strictly follow Nityananda Prabhu perform the same activities. Common preaching themes, whether to disciples or outsiders, in his books or correspondence, formally or informally, Srila Prabhupada was always preaching because the message he gave is meant for everyone, and because most people need to hear the basic instructions. Srila Prabhupada mostly spoke according to a few key themes, the most essential being: we preach to convince everyone that he is not this body and he is eternal servant of Krishna, and that he can realize Krishna by chanting the holy name. Countless times he reiterated, you are not that body. The body is temporary, the soul is eternal, and to have no intrinsic relationship. Other topics that Srila Prabhupada repeatedly emphasized. The soul transmigrates from body to body within material existence. Material existence is full of suffering. Sense gratification causes suffering, degrades the consciousness so that one becomes blind to self-realization and binds one to material existence. Therefore, sense gratification should be given up. Human life is meant not for sense gratification but for solving the problems of material existence. We are controlled, so there must be a controller. The Supreme is a person. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is not formless or impersonal. Other corollary, often repeated themes, the faults of modern civilization, the cheating of scientists and others, the need to re-establish Daivi Varnashrama as distinguished from caste-based Asura Varnashrama Dharma, regarding which Srila Prabhupada gave many descriptions of various facets of traditional Indian culture as guidelines for re-establishing Varnashrama society. Srila Prabhupada's preaching was mostly on the platform of Sambandha Jnana, of trying to convince people of their factual existential situation, of the nature of reality beyond the illusion they were mired in, and the need to get out of the existence of darkness and go forward on the path of light. Tasmai ma jyotir gama. Sorry. Tamasi ma jyotir gama. When speaking to outsiders, he rarely asked them to start chanting on beats. When speaking to outsiders, he rarely asked them to start chanting on beats. If at all he engaged them on the platform of Abhidheya, he would ask them to read his books or to associate with devotees by regularly visiting the center. This is very, very important. He seldom spoke on specifics of prayojana, the state of spiritual perfection. Yes, nowadays we speak of prayojana. Prem lijiye, prem lijiye. When asked about details concerning the spiritual world, generally he would reply along the line, you will see when you go there. Another example, best thing is if you chant Hare Krishna and go to Krishna Loka and find out the answers to all these questions yourself. Riva. The following may be taken as Srila Prabhupada's core message to people in general. Instead of being engrossed in material activities, people throughout the world should take advantage of this moment and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra at home with their families. One should also refrain from sinful activities, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Out of these 4 items, illicit sex is very sinful. Every person must get married. Every woman especially must get married. Sent to female Diksha Gurus. If the women outnumber the men, some men can accept more than one wife. Wow, polygamy. In that way, there will be no prostitution in the society. If men can marry more than one wife, illicit sex will be stopped. One can also produce many nice preparations to offer Krishna from grains, fruits, vegetables, and milk. Why should one indulge in unnecessary meat eating and maintain horrible slaughterhouses? What is the use of smoking and drinking tea and coffee? What is the use of smoking and drinking tea and coffee? Now we have in ISKCON herbal tree, Vedic coffee. People are already intoxicated by material enjoyment, and if they indulge in further intoxication, what chance is there for self-realization? Similarly, one should not partake in gambling and unnecessary agitate the mind. Many devotees are investing in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and they tell other devotees also to invest that. This is all gambling. Stock market, mutual funds, everything is gambling. The real purpose of human life is to attain the spiritual platform and return to Godhead. That is the summum bonum of spiritual realization. In summary, chant Hare Krishna, follow the 4 regulative principles, and utilize the human birth for self-realization. Chapter 3, utility is the principle. Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Any activity which will please Krishna should be accepted favorably. That is our guiding principle. Faced with social circumstances that no Acharya before him could have even dreamed of, Srila Prabhupada rigidly maintained some traditional principles and was flexible with others in a selfless effort to introduce, establish, and then nurture the message of Krishna amid the confused, hedonistic, nasty, civil Western culture, far removed from Krishna consciousness. In this emergent situation, Srila Prabhupada never hesitated to do the needful. One of his often cited phrases, I am always prepared to do anything for spreading Krishna consciousness. He allowed unmarried women to live in the ashrams, awarded Brahminical status to persons far removed from Brahminical culture, made sannyasis from raw young men, had his disciples distribute scriptures to persons ignorant of how to respect them. The list goes on and on. Miraculously, he's balanced. Oh, Krishna. Just a second. My computer just got switched off. Just a second. Students. One second. Question speeches we read. Oh, Krishna. Wherein preaching improves everything. The utility is the principle. Okay, that section. Utility is principle. Okay. Okay. By exhorting. Okay. In this emergency situation, Srila Prabhupada never hesitated to do the needful. One of his often cited phrases, I am always prepared to do anything for spreading Krishna consciousness. He allowed unmarried women to live in the ashrams, awarded Brahminical status to persons far removed from Brahminical culture, made sannyasis from raw young men, had his disciples distribute scriptures to persons ignorant of how to respect them. The list goes on and on. Miraculously, his balanced appreciation of purity's force, utility's principle succeeded. By exhorting his disciples to also do the needful, Srila Prabhupada inculcated the principle of doing whatever is required to further the goals of the Krishna consciousness movement or to further to fructification a particular activity within the mission, such as purchasing a property. This is not, however, exactly synonymous with the end justifies the means, for Srila Prabhupada was not only dynamic but also wise and taught that discretion is better part of valor, and one must learn how to discriminate between actions which may be pleasing to the Lord and those who may not be pleasing, to the Lord. An action is thus judged by the Lord's pleasure or displeasure. There is no room for personal whims. We must always be guided by the pleasure of the Lord. Such action is called yogaha karmashu kaushalam. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 text 50. Or actions performed which are linked with the Supreme Lord. That is the art of doing a thing perfectly. Still, Srila Prabhupada's pragmatism took many forms. For instance, even though he preached the Krishna consciousness, even though he preached that Krishna consciousness is not a religion or a part of Hinduism, he sometimes employed the expedient of presenting it as a minority religion or a Hindu group. He welcomed the declaration of the New York judge who ruled that Krishna consciousness is a bona fide religion. And when in London permission was denied for holding Ratha Yatra, Srila Prabhupada said to rally the Hindus to support their religion. Yet he continued to warn that over-identification with such labels is detrimental to the ultimate spiritual purpose of the movement. On principle, Srila Prabhupada was in favor of anything and everything that promoted Krishna consciousness, provided it accurately presented the Shastra-based teachings and compromised neither the gravity nor the dignity of the message. Another example, endorsing the tactic of dressing like an ordinary karmi when required for the sake of preaching, because the real principle is to spread Krishna consciousness movement and to attract people to Krishna consciousness. If one has to change into regular Western dress for this purpose, there should be no objection. For our only concern is to spread interest in Krishna consciousness. In summary, because preaching is essence, the injunction to try to make this Hare Krishna movement popular through any source that is possible informs every aspect of Srila Prabhupada's mission, being based on what is technically called Yukta Vairagya. Okay. Yukta Vairagya. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati revolutionized the practice and spreading of Krishna consciousness by shedding fresh light on the principle of Yukta Vairagya, which had been defined by Srila Rupa Goswami in well-known verse that begins Anasaktasya Vishayan. Continuing his spiritual master's Yukta Vairagya initiative, Srila Prabhupada explained his pragmatic contemporary application. Generally, a saintly person lives in a remote place, in the forest or in a humble cottage. However, we should note that the times have changed. It may be beneficial for a saintly person's own interest to go to the forest and live in a cottage, but if one becomes a preacher, especially in Western countries, he has to invite many classes of men who are accustomed to live in comfortable apartments. Therefore, in this age, a saintly person has to make proper arrangements to receive people and attract them to the message of Krishna consciousness. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, perhaps for the first time, introduced motor cars and palatial buildings for the residence of saintly persons, just to attract the general public in big cities. The main fact is that one has to associate with a saintly person. In this age, people are not going to search out a saint in the forest. So the saints and sages have to come to the big cities to make arrangements to see people in general who are accustomed to the modern amenities of material life. Gradually, such persons will learn that palatial buildings or comfortable apartments are not at all necessary. The real necessity is to become free from the material bondage in whatever way possible. According to the orders of the Srila Rupa Goswami, according to the orders of Srila Rupa Goswami, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upayunjitah Devbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyamachyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. One should not be attached to material objects, material opulence, but material opulence may be accepted in Krishna consciousness movement to facilitate the propagation of the movement. In other words, Material opulence may be accepted as Vityavaigya, that is for renunciation. Bellying the common misconception that worldly involvement is antithetical to saintliness, Srila Prabhupada explained. In propagating Krishna consciousness, we have to deal with money or persons who are not Krishna conscious. But when we go to outsiders or deal with money, there is a relationship with Krishna Sambandha. Stating, we are modern day Vaishnavas and we must preach vigorously using all the means available. Srila Prabhupada utilized in Krishna service the ever increasing variety of technological innovations. When a TV editor asks, if the movement is spiritual, why do you have a car? How is that spiritual? Srila Prabhupada explained, if a car is used in Krishna consciousness, that is a spiritual car. This might seem to contradict his disdain of modern civilization, the simple living and high thinking ethnic that he advocated. However, according to the principle, whatever is there, whatever we have, should be used for Krishna. One should not give up. One should not give up anything which can be utilized in the service of the Lord. That is a secret of devotional service. Anything that can be utilized in advancing Krishna consciousness and devotional service should be accepted. For instance, we are using many machines for the advancement of our present Krishna consciousness movement. Machines like typewriters, dictating machines, tape recorders, microphones, and airplanes. Sometimes people ask us, why are you utilizing material pockets if you condemn the advancement of material civilization? But actually, we do not condemn. We simply ask people to do whatever they are doing in Krishna consciousness. That is a simple principle on which Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, that is a simple principle on which in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advised Arjuna to utilize his fighting abilities in devotional service. Similarly, we are utilizing these machines for Krishna's service with such sentiment for Krishna or Krishna consciousness. We can utilize, with such sentiment for Krishna or Krishna consciousness, we can accept everything. If the typewriter can be utilized for advancing our Krishna consciousness movement, we must accept it. Similarly, the dictating machine or any other machine must be used. Our vision is that Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause and effect, and nothing happens by chance. Krishna's things must be used in service of Krishna. That is our vision. In brief, if we get an opportunity preaching facility for going on car, on airplane, using typewriter, dictaphone, microphone, we must use it because that is Krishna's property and must be used for Krishna. We can use everything, television, radio, movies, or whatever they may be, to tell about Krishna and outside the devotion service. And outside of devotional service, all these modern paraphernalia are just so much rubbish. Humorously making the point, we are preaching Krishna consciousness. Suppose if I have come to your country and if I say I will go by walking, then my life will be finished before preaching. We are intelligent. Now we have got this airplane. Take advantage and go in 3 hours to America, speedy. This is our policy. Dovetailing and spiritual therapeutics. Srila Rupa Goswami has enunciated that anything in relationship with Krishna is on the transcendental platform. If we dovetail all our activities in relationship with Krishna, then we do not stand on the material platform, but always on the spiritual platform. Dovetail was a term Srila Prabhupada often employed in the sense of practicing Yukta Vairagya. Some instances. Matter dovetailed for the cause of absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. When a person acting in Krishna consciousness applies everything produced of body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. There is no need to eradicate politics, economics, sociology, etc., which are mundane to mundaners. To a pure devotee who is actually related with Lord, such mundane things are transcendental. If to a pure devotee who is actually related with the Lord, such mundane things are transcendental. If dovetailed with the Lord or the correct. if doubted with the Lord or with his pure devotees. Everything created by material energy can be doubted with the absolute by an attitude of service. The pure devotee of the Lord knows the art of converting everything into its spiritual existence by this service attitude. Even mundane things, if doubted, in the service of the Lord, Sri Krishna, are accepted as tourism. The whole world can be transformed into Vaikuntha if all worldly activities are dovetailed with Krishna Katha. In accord with the Yukta Vairagya principle, Srila Prabhupada was most expert physician in employing spiritual therapeutics. As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 33. Does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? In his purport to this very important verse, which he called the essence of Krishna consciousness movement, Srila Prabhupada explained that this is the fact of spiritual success and the best way to make the best use of a bad bargain. An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparation sometimes cause disorder of the bowels, but the very same milk converted into yogurt and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized. Just as by fire, iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of the fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over the material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way is to make the best way to make the best use of bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the supreme spiritual being. Everything is an emanation from the supreme spirit, and by his inconceivable power, he can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so called, is once turned into spiritual force by the is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so-called matter in the service of the spirit. That is the way to treat our material desires and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane. Providing comfortable facilities. As a general principle, this Krishna consciousness movement is Vairagya Pradhan. It should not be very luxurious. It should not be very luxurious. Due to poverty, most early centers of ISKCON were crammed, austere, and anything but luxurious. Yet Srila Prabhupada was aware that most of his Western followers would be unable to pass their whole lives in the Spartan manner typically of dhotis, sadhus, and indeed most people in India. Thus, when money started to flow into ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada applied the principle of Yukta Vairagya by providing minimally comfortable facilities in temples throughout the world. The Krishna consciousness movement has to be introduced in the Western countries, but it is not possible for Westerners to go to the forest and practice the severe austerities which were ideally practiced by Prithu Maharaj and Rupa Goswami. However, Westerners or anyone else can follow in the footsteps of Bhakti Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur by living in a temple which is transcendental to residence in a forest and to vow to accept Krishna Prasad and nothing else, following the regulative principles and chant 16 rounds daily of the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one's spiritual life will never be disturbed. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow at the same time. Until then, Hare Krishna. If you want to ask something, devotees can ask. Otherwise, I would like to stop here. And devotees are requested to please come on dot, maybe 2 minutes before 7:15, so that we can stop at 8:15. So at least we should read for 1 hour totally. Okay, so we will stop here and we will meet tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhyo japatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj ki jai. The mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.